Hello there to my fellow filmsters and welcome back to another segment of Sunday Spoiler Reviews. I am movie critic Nick Yacobucci for We Live Film and Real Screen Reviews, and this week's Sunday Spoiler Review is for The Counselor. The Counselor opened 2 days ago on Friday, the tail end of October here in 2013, and it stars Michael Fassbender, Cameron Diaz, Javier Bardem, Penelope Cruz, Brad Pitt, and it comes to us from very successful director, Ridley Scott, the man that directed Gladiator and the recent Prometheus, going all the way back to Thelma and Louise and the original Alien from the 70s. And he now tries to give us a sleek and stylish thriller surrounded by crime and debauchery, and it's all brought to us from writer Cormac McCarthy, who is the author of No Country for Old Men and many other crime works. Okay, this movie tells the tale of a counselor or a lawyer, and he is now just getting engaged to his longtime girlfriend, Penelope Cruz. He's only known as the counselor. We don't even know his name. That's Michael Fassbender. And in order to pad his income, he decides to get involved with some drug runners, and he puts up some money to try and get a drug deal going. And then it ends up that the drugs are hijacked, and then the person that was driving the truck is linked back to the counselor, Michael Fassbender, and then the drug dealers that were ripped off are looking to find him, and it all spirals completely out of control. He's warned well ahead of time from many people not to do this, but in turn he does it anyway. Okay, that about sums up the tale here, and I'm going to start with the positives of the film. I don't have very many positives in the film, but I'm going to start with the positives of the film. The movie looks fantastic. The director of photography is Darius Wolski, and he actually also shot Prometheus with Ridley Scott from just a few years ago. This guy can shoot futuristic, this guy can shoot barren desert, this guy can shoot pretty much anything and make it look crisp and clear and relevant to what the story being told is. The guy's just got a really great eye for the camera, and very, very talented man. It's probably the best asset in the entire movie of The Counselor, is that it just looks brilliant. He captures the deep south of Texas brilliantly, but he also has these landscapes of like these mansions and this wealth and prestige, and he captures all those scenes very authentically and real. The guy's great. He's that's, like I said, it's probably one of the best aspects of the film is the way that the film looks. Let me see here. The dialogue actually is great, even though I'm not a huge fan of the story that's being told, but the dialogue and the lines that are spoken. Cameron Diaz has some really good things to say. I wrote them down, but I'm not going to read them. The dialogue is actually, in my opinion, it was very specific. They used a lot of intelligent dialogue when it was needed in the story. It brought the characters to life a lot more than they would have. It's just, like I said, another one of the positives of the film. I think if it wasn't for the good dialogue, I really wouldn't have much to say in the positive category really at all. Actually, that's about it. It's going to bring me to the negatives here, and well, I guess the positives. I love Penelope Cruz. I think she was wonderful and beautiful, as she always is. I didn't really like Cameron Diaz. Bardem I thought was wasted, and Fassbender, the surprising thing is this is like the first time that he has been the lead in a movie or have a very prominent role in the movie where I really didn't like him. I thought he was just very out of place. I thought he overacted a lot. I thought he didn't fit this movie like the bullseye that he did with the android from Prometheus, or the soldier that he played in Inglourious Bastards. I just think that this was really not a perfect fit for him, and it was one of the downers of the film, actually. Bardem, as I said, he was flashy and he looked good, but his character really went nowhere. And then, like right in the middle of the movie, he gets killed, and I was really kind of disappointed because he was one of the only colorful spots in the cast. And let me see what else. Oh yeah, this is great. Diaz, I'll get back. Like, her performance, I didn't like at all. I thought she was completely and utterly miscast as this femme fatale, and it was hilarious because, like, on the TV show The Big Bang Theory, those guys, they're not brilliant physicists and scientists, so they're usually just saying lines, you know what I mean? They don't know what they're saying, but they're, speaking scientifically. That's exactly what I was getting from Diaz's performance. That she was just saying these lines, and she had intelligent things to say, and it's like, if you really looked at her face, these lines were just like right over her head. I mean, it really looked to me like this poor lady didn't know anything of what she was even talking about. It really, to me, showed on her face. And then what else showed to me was her fake tattoo. That is, it's like a cheetah tattoo, and it goes all the way around her. She reminded me of like Lisbeth Salander, but only with Lisbeth Salander's tattoo, it actually looked authentic. This looked, you could actually see it was a different color than her skin, and it looked completely fake. And I couldn't even believe that they went with those scenes, because the tattoo itself was this, it just kept drawing my eye. It was the only thing that I kept looking at, because it just looked so fake on the screen, and that was just really, really bad. In a nutshell, this movie is just boring. I mean, if you can't guess it by now, this movie is just boring. It's way too long. It promises the sleek and stylish and sexy thriller, but instead it just delivers a yawn fest. I mean, you're just fighting to stay awake through this thing. The action is few and far between, and the plot, to me, seemed simply repetitive. You know, for one example, like, Fassbender wants to get involved with these drug dealers, and Bardem sits him down, Javier Bardem sits him down and says, you know, you really shouldn't do this. You sure you want to do this? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, no, I want to do this. You know, I got to make sure that I'm setting up my family, my wife, I'm getting married here. And then, like, the next scene is Brad Pitt going through the exact same conversation with him. I mean, the whole thing really felt repetitive to me, and that was like one of many instances that happened in this film. The thrilling is replaced with long-winded conversations, and Tony Scott, I apologize for that, Ridley Scott, he should have thought less about the symbolism and the life lessons that he was trying to convey, and concentrated more on the entertainment value. Because I'll tell you, his symbolism was just, it was like first-grade symbolism. Like, you know, the people that you like, or the protagonists in the story, dress in white, or their houses are all white. And if you're a villain or an antagonist in the movie, then you dressed in dark clothing and drove like a black car or a black truck. You know, I wonder if they took lessons from the movie Twister, where all the villains in that movie drove the big black trucks. I mean, they should have just painted on them, we're the villains, you know, we're the bad guys. I mean, the symbolism was so first grade evident, it was ridiculous to even have it in there. I don't know who you thought you were fooling. Let me see. Then it develops characters like Javier Bardem, and then just ends up wasting them. They develop characters like Penelope Cruz, and then they just wasted her too. What else there? Oh, the foreshadowing in the movie and the clues, they couldn't have been more blatant if they were on like a billboard. I mean, there was this one conversation where they're talking about this weapon that kind of chokes somebody, and then lo and behold, that's how they ended up killing somebody in the movie. And I mean, that's another thing. It was just so evident, the foreshadowing. It's like, well, here's a clue. You better file this one away, because it's going to come back later on in the movie. That stuff was well too evident for me in the movie. You know, that kind of stuff needs to be very subtle, and then when it is subtle, it's more entertaining for the viewer. Then I don't know what it is, but the movie The Counselor just lacks details. Like, you know, there are these big-wig drug dealers, and then there's this big drug deal that's going on. But you know what? We really don't know anything about it. It's just kind of just there, and it's just kind of happening. Then there was a couple times, especially there was this scene in the beginning near the beginning of the movie, where Bardem and Michael Fassbender are talking, and that's when he first wants to get into the drug deal. And the editing process in this scene was really terrible. Like, they're standing next to each other, and then it pans away, and it comes back, they're like 4 feet apart. Then it cuts away and cuts back, and they're standing right next to each other again. It's just like scenes like that just take me out of the movie. It's like, if I can sit there and see that on the first viewing, how could the editor and the director that have watched the dailies and put this movie together, how can they not see that? Because it's things like that, like I said, in my opinion, hurt the end result. I think this movie very much wanted to be like the next kind of Tarantino movie, but in my opinion, it didn't even match Oliver Stone's Savages from last summer. Like I said, Fassbender was over the top and fake, and Diaz was horribly miscast. Then Brad Pitt is just kind of wasted in his role, and the funny thing about him, his character was like a contradiction. Like, he's this good guy, and he's this bad guy that he's, you know, kind of got his own agenda, but he wears all white clothing. But, you know, he really wasn't a good guy in the movie. And then he goes into this bar in the deep south of Texas, and he orders a Heineken. And then the other guy's like, yeah, I'll have a Heineken too. And it's like, I think that's the last beer that they would ever ask for in Texas. I think you would ask for Budweiser or something else that was made in America if you valued your life. I don't know, I'm guessing. And then for him being such this brilliant criminal and lifelong criminal, he couldn't see the ambush that was coming at the very end of the movie, where, I mean, he's being surrounded by like 3 sides, and he doesn't see any of this coming until the very end, and it just, once again, that was like a contradiction to how intelligent his character was supposed to be in the first place. At right around 2 hours, this movie, The Counselor, was way too long. It was way too boring, and there wasn't enough of anything going on to really capture your attention and really keep it. You know, there was some good dialogue, there's some good performances, the movie looks great, but in the end, that's really about all I have to compliment. Nick's real screen review is going to be a dismal 1 1/2 stars out of 4, and that's for the dismal The Counselor. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time that I have today, and thank you so much for stopping by my Sunday spoiler-filled review. If you've enjoyed this spoiler-filled review, please click like below and give me a thumbs up, or subscribe to We Live Film if you haven't yet already. I'm sure that I'll be returning soon enough with more movie reviews and more spoiler reviews, and until then, remember people, this is Nick Yakabuchi saying I'm not always right, but only when it comes to the movies, and thank you for your attention.